Hi guys, it's Danny. I am celebrating my 33rd birthday this week, and as a little bit of a celebration, I wanted to share 33 things that I've learned over the past 33 years. A lot of people don't like getting older, but I actually love it because I feel like I get smarter and I learn new things every year. So let's get right into lesson number one. Lesson number one is you have control over your attitude. Obviously, external factors play a big role in how you feel. But it's important to remember that you and only you control your attitude. Lesson number two is the wrong thing is sometimes right. I've learned from trial and error that good and bad and right or wrong aren't always as clear as we'd like them to be. Sometimes what everybody else considers as wrong is actually the right thing to do for you. And sometimes, lesson number three is the right thing is sometimes wrong. So this is the flip side of lesson number two. What seems right sometimes can be wrong. Just because someone else or society tells you that something is the right thing to do doesn't mean that it is. I've learned that you have to really think about what is right and wrong for you and choose based on those beliefs, not on somebody else's or on society's in general. So lesson number four is keep your mind and heart wide open. I talk about open-mindedness sometimes on Positively Present, and I really think it's essential for making the most of your life. Now, this doesn't mean you have to agree with everyone or everyone's beliefs, but I found that it really makes your life more positive if you at least listen to what they have to say with an open mind, and also keep your heart open when it comes to new relationships and new romance. Lesson number five, figure out what you really love doing. I'm fortunate enough to have figured out what I love, writing and creating, at a very young age, but I know that a lot of people don't really have something that they're passionate about, and part of that is because they don't spend time figuring it out. Really spend time doing things that you love and pay attention to how you feel when you're doing certain things. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Would you rather not do it? Even if it's weird, find what you love and do it as much as you possibly can. Lesson number six, try as many new things as you can. Okay, so I'm not the most adventurous person, but every time I've ventured outside of my comfort zone and tried something new, I've learned something new about myself or about the world. This is something I'm still working on and want to do more of in my life, but I know that it's so important. Lesson number seven, have a goal other than to be happy. I've talked about this before, but happiness shouldn't be your goal. Happiness is an emotion. It's something that you will feel, and hopefully you'll feel it a lot, but it's not something to aim for as a goal. Chasing happiness will not actually make you happy. So find a goal or purpose that has something to do with something else other than happiness. Trust me, you will actually end up having more happiness in your life. Lesson number eight, finding the good in a situation pays off. Obviously, optimism is something that I think is really important since I write about it all the time on Positively Present, but it hasn't been something that's always come easily to me, which is actually why I started the site in the first place. But every single time I've chosen to focus on the good in a situation, it's made things better. Focusing on the bad pretty much always makes things worse. So definitely try to find the good no matter what the situation. Lesson number 9. It's okay not to like what others like. And on the other side, it's okay to like stuff that people don't really like and think is kind of weird. Life is really short, so don't waste your time following trends that you're not really into or, trying to pretend you like something for somebody else. It's okay to not like it. It's no big deal. Lesson number 10. Hate and resentment are never ever useful. Obviously, this isn't the most earth-shattering lesson, but it's one that a lot of people forget. When you hate, resent, or hold grudges against others, you're actually hurting yourself. I mean, sometimes it'll bother the other person, but more often than not, it's more about causing yourself pain and heartache and holding on to negative emotions. So don't do it. It's not useful ever. Lesson number 11. Society's rules don't have to be yours. You don't have to follow society's rules just because they're there. I'm not suggesting you go breaking crazy laws or whatever, but in general, there are certain things that are considered acceptable or normal, and you don't have to do those if you're not into them. For example, I don't want to get married, I don't want to have kids, I don't want to work a typical 9-to-5 job. They're not for me, and that's okay. And same goes for you. If you want to do all those things, great. But if you don't, remember, you don't have to let society dictate how you live your life. Lesson number 12. You can change anytime you want to. Just because you were a certain way before doesn't mean you always have to be that way. This is something I've learned, and it's been one of the biggest eye-openers for me. You can change anything you want to. You can change how you feel, the people you're around, the job you have, the place you live. Obviously, in some situations, it's going to be much more difficult than in others, but it's always possible. And don't ever forget that you have an opportunity to make your life what you want it to be. Lesson number 13. Pay attention to how people make you feel. After you spend time with somebody, pay attention to how you feel when you leave that situation. Do you feel drained? Do you feel uplifted? Do you feel inspired? There's certain people that are going to make you feel different ways. And it's not necessarily that they're a bad or a good person. Like certain people, they might be perfectly fine for others, but they might for some reason make you feel really drained after you spend time with them. And those aren't the people for you. So really have to take note of that and then try to spend time with the people that uplift you as much as you can. Lesson number 14. You define what the word success means. Success is whatever the hell you want it to mean. My favorite new quote, which is by Sarah Jones, is, "What if joy is my only metric for success?" It's totally up to you to determine what your metric for success would be. It doesn't have to be money or a fancy title or the perfect family. It can be finding joy in your life, finding fulfillment, going after your dreams, whatever is success for you. Define that and then go after it. Lesson number 15. Treat others how they want to be treated. Probably heard of the golden rule, which is treat others how you'd want to be treated. But I don't really believe in that because sometimes the way other people would like to be treated is completely the opposite of how you would want to be treated. It's really important to treat others how they want to be treated. And if you don't know how somebody else wants to be treated, ask. Lesson number 16. Never, ever, ever stop being thankful. Gratitude is seriously everything. It took me a really long time to learn this. I think because I thought it was kind of a cliche, like be grateful and, appreciate every moment. I used to be really kind of against that stuff, but I've realized gratitude is life-changing, and the more you practice it, the better your life gets. Lesson number 17. Self-love is the foundation for all love. This might be one of the most important lessons I've learned so far, and it's that if you want to love other people and be loved by other people, you have to love yourself first. It's really vital to creating good relationships, finding your perfect career path, and just generally having a better life. So if you don't love who you are, focus on that and try to cultivate that self-love. Lesson number 18. Worrying serves no practical purpose. This is another lesson that I'm really trying to work on in my own life. I know this, and I think a lot of us do. We know that worrying doesn't do anything. For the most part, it just stresses you out and causes you to be anxious about something that hasn't even happened yet. And to be honest, I feel like some of the biggest things in my life that I've worried about never ended up happening. Like if I was supposed to go to some sort of meeting that I was dreading or something and it ended up getting canceled, or a trip that I was supposed to go on and I was anxious about traveling, like it ended up not working out or something. So many times I found that worrying does no good and it ends up being completely pointless. So try to do it as little as possible. Again, this is something I'm definitely still working on myself. Lesson number 19. Bad times pass. So do good times. It's good to remember when you're going through a tough time and it seems like it'll never pass and you'll be, upset forever. It does. You will get out of that bad time and you will start feeling better. It does take time depending on the situation, but it will happen. Same goes for good times. This isn't to say be sad that the good times won't last forever, but it's important to recognize that good times don't last forever and to be really appreciative of them when they do happen. Lesson number 20. When it's time to let go, do it. This is another lesson that I've been taught over and over again by life, but I'm still struggling with. Letting go for some reason is really hard for me, and I tend to cling way longer than I should to certain people and situations. Once you determine that you should let go of something, it's important to actually do it and not just say, oh, I need to get rid of this in my life. Like actually let that shit go. Lesson number 21. You can be scared and you can still be brave. This is something that's taken me a while to figure out, but I finally recognized that bravery doesn't mean that you're not afraid. Bravery means that you are afraid and you're still going to face a situation anyway. There's plenty of things that we're all scared to do, and instead of running from that fear, I found that it works out much better if you just face it, because not only are you going to overcome that specific fear, but you'll also have more confidence in yourself and create more self-love. Lesson number 22. Notice what's going right. This lesson goes hand in hand with gratitude. So often we spend time focusing on what's going wrong in our lives, which is totally normal. I think it's human nature to pay attention to what's going wrong so we can fix it or change it, which is good. But sometimes we spend so much time focusing on what's going wrong that we don't recognize what's going right. When something's going wrong, I take a moment and I think about all the things going right. And it definitely puts that bad situation or the bad thing in perspective. Lesson number 23. Don't romanticize the past or the future. So the past and the future aren't actually real. The only thing that's real is right now. Our memories of the past and our visions of what we think the future are going to be are not reality. When you're romanticizing them or spending a lot of time dwelling on them, you're not really making the most of the present moment. If you want to be present, which you should because it really is life-changing, you should not focus so much on the past or the future, and you also should not think that they're going to be better than where you are now. If you're going to glamorize anything, Let it be the present moment. Lesson number 24, you can't control other people. So no matter what you do or say or think or want, you don't have control over other people. This is so important. Once you realize you have no control over other people, you'll find much more peace and a sense of freedom within yourself. And sometimes this can be hard to learn, especially if you want to help somebody and you're like, oh, I wish they would just do this. They'd be so much better off. You have to remember, people have to do things in their own time and in their own way. And once you realize that, you definitely will feel more free. Lesson number 25, go into it with absolutely no expectations. And by it, I mean everything. I mean, go into life with no expectations, go into a relationship, a friendship, a job. I've talked about this on the blog a little bit. You can have standards, and that's not the same thing as expectations. Expectations are the belief that something's going to go a certain way. This can really cause you to be disappointed in other people and situations, whereas if you go into something with no expectations and good things happen, you will be pleasantly surprised and it will be a really positive experience. And if things don't go as well as planned, you'll be like, okay, well, I didn't really know how it was going to go anyway, so that's fine. And trust me, it's so much better to do that. Lesson number 26, take note of what excites your heart. Think about the things that make your heart start beating fast. What are the things that you could talk about for hours? What makes you feel really excited and inspired and more alive? Those things are really important. Even if they're a small thing or a strange thing, whatever, pay attention to those and try to find ways to spend more time doing them. Lesson number 27, it's good that not every wish is granted. For the past few years, I've been making the same exact wish every single time I see a star, and that wish hasn't come true. And now I'm starting to see why. There's something else for me that's better. Over my life, that's happened time and time again, that I've had something that I really wanted or I really wished for, and I didn't get it. And then later I realized why I didn't, because there was something else that was better for me. Really important to keep that in mind if you aren't getting what you want or things aren't working out the way you thought they would. The reason that's happening is because there's something else coming or there's something else better. Lesson number 28, you'll make time for what you really want. You know, the things that you're like, oh, I wish I had time for that and I never do it and I should do it. That's because you don't want to do it. The things that you really want to do, you will make time for. I really like social media and I spend a lot of time on that. Somehow I have plenty of time to do that, but when it comes to exercising, something I don't like doing as much, I suddenly have no time and I'm too busy. Same goes for other people. Other people who want to spend time with you will make time for you. If they want to and they really want to be with you, they'll find a way to hang out with you, spend time with you. If somebody says they're too busy, they don't have time, they can't make room for you in their lives, those people don't want to be with you. You gotta let those people go. Lesson number 29. The less you need, the more you'll have. This one's kind of taken me a while to realize. Finally, I've discovered that the rush of material things or, even experiences kind of wear off and they don't last very long. So yes, I love stuff still. I still, buy clothes and go shopping and, have material things that have meaning to me. But I realize now that all of that stuff is extra. It's not essential at all. And bonus tip, what is essential in life is something that you cannot purchase at a store. Lesson number 30, not all thoughts are worth believing. It's important to realize, and it took me a while on this one too, that not everything you think is a fact. This is a life-changing thing. Always take a closer look at what you're thinking and ask yourself if it's really, really true. Because sometimes our minds are a little bit crazy and you can exaggerate things or you think it's a certain way and it's not. We all have wild imaginations, which is super cool, but it can also be problematic when it comes to our thinking because we think things that aren't necessarily facts. Figure out if your thought is actually true, and if it is true, is it useful for you to keep having that thought? That kind of goes back to the worrying concept. Your thought might be, I'm super nervous about this upcoming presentation, but thinking that over and over again isn't necessarily helpful. Lesson number 31, notice the mistakes you make repetitively. I happen to be really great at making the same mistakes over and over and over again, but I've learned to pay attention to those mistakes and look at them closely and determine why I'm doing them. This always teaches me something. This isn't to say I don't sometimes still make the same mistake, but at least I know what the mistakes are, kind of why I'm making them, and if I continue to make them, that's a choice, but at least I'm aware of what I'm doing instead of just blindly, making the same mistake. Lesson number 32, learn something new every day. Probably heard this before, but knowledge is power. The more you know, the bigger your world gets. If you're listening to this or if you're reading the blog post, you're probably fortunate enough to have access to the internet, which has so much knowledge. You can find anything you want pretty much on the internet. So anything you want to learn, anything you would like to know more about, look it up and explore things, because the more you know, the better your life will be. No matter what you're learning, it helps you in some way. And the last lesson, and maybe one of the most important, always choose love over fear. The greatest thing I've probably learned, and this has only been within the past few years, is that almost everything you do, say, think, or feel can be traced back to either love or fear. Those things, love or fear, govern your choices and beliefs. So you really need to pay attention to which one is guiding you and strive to put love in the lead and do things out of love and not out of fear. Everything you do, whether it's your work, your relationships, friendships, can be driven by love. So make sure that that is what you're following and not fear. Thanks so much for watching this video. I hope that you learned something from these 33 lessons that I've learned in the past 33 years. And if you have any other lessons to share that you've learned, I'd love to hear about them in the comment section below. And as always, if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and I will be back soon with a new video. Thanks for watching. Bye.